The massive crystal hall floated in space above the planet Proxima Tertius. Inside, beings from 47 different worlds sat in their special seats. Some had blue skin with scales. Others looked like floating clouds of light. A few were made of metal and wires. All of them were here for one reason today. They wanted to talk about humans. Ambassador Kang Ho stood up from his seat. His blue scales caught the light as he moved. He was tall and thin, like most of his people from the Altarian Empire. His yellow eyes looked around the hall with disgust. "Friends," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the huge room, "we are here to discuss a problem. A big problem. The species called humans from the Sol system." Many beings in the hall nodded. Some made clicking sounds with their mouths. Others flashed different colors with their skin. All these sounds meant they agreed with Kang Ho. In a small section at the back of the hall, 4 humans sat quietly. Captain Yijun Park was the leader of their group. His face was serious and calm, but his eyes were watching everything. Next to him sat Dr. Eunji Kim, a woman who studied alien life. Commander Bo-Ra Lee, a military officer, sat very straight in her chair. Ambassador Hyun-Woo Choi, who usually spoke for humans in meetings like this, kept his hands folded in his lap. Kang Ho continued talking. "These humans have been part of our galaxy for 50 years. In that time, they have caused 17 different wars. 17. They fight everyone they meet. They cannot live in peace with anyone." A shimmering form stood up in another part of the hall. This was Counselor So-Jin from the Ethereal Collective. Her people looked like ghosts made of light. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music. "The humans are dangerous," she said. "They think with violence first. When they have problems, they always choose to fight. This is not how civilized beings act." More sounds of agreement filled the hall. Captain Park felt his jaw tighten, but he said nothing. Dr. Kim put her hand on his arm to keep him calm. A huge creature stood up with a loud thump. This was War Chief Tae-hyung of the Vorthak people. He was 8 feet tall and covered in thick fur. His voice was like thunder when he spoke. "I have fought beside humans," he said. "I have fought against them too. They are always ready for war.
They enjoy it.
They make peace talks into battles. They turn trade meetings into fights. They are like a disease that spreads violence wherever they go." Captain Park remembered that fight. It was 3 years ago on the planet Kepler 438b. The Vorthak had been stealing food from human colonies. When the humans came to talk about it, the Vorthak attacked first. The humans won that fight, but apparently Tae-hyung remembered it differently. More species spoke up. The Zentari hive mind sent their speaker, a small gray being with big black eyes. "The collective mind of our people agrees," it said in a flat voice. "Humans disrupt the harmony of space. They must be removed." The mechanoids, who were robots that had become alive somehow, also voted against humans. Their representative, Unit 763, spoke in a voice like a computer. "Humans show 94.7% more aggressive behavior than the galactic average. This makes them incompatible with peaceful coexistence. Even the gas giant dwellers who lived in the clouds of big planets and rarely talked to anyone had sent someone to vote against humans. Their representative floated in a special tank filled with the gases they needed to breathe. One by one, each species cast their vote. The numbers appeared on a big screen in the center of the hall. Yes to ban humans, 44 votes. No opinion, 2 votes. No to ban humans, 1 vote. The humans could only vote for themselves, and it did not matter much since they were just one voice against so many. High Chancellor Minsu of the Galactic Council stood up at the front of the hall. He was from an old species that looked like tall, thin humans but with silver skin. He held up a large golden hammer. "The vote is finished," he announced. "By the power given to me by the Galactic Federation, I declare that humans are banned from all Federation space. They have 72 standard hours to leave all Federation territories, trade routes, and diplomatic stations." The hammer came down with a loud bang that echoed through the hall. Many of the representatives started talking excitedly. Some were laughing. Others were making happy sounds in their own languages. They acted like they had just solved a big problem. Finally, Kang Ho said to So-Jin as they walked toward the exit, "Now we can have real peace in the galaxy." "The humans were the cause of so much trouble," So-Jin agreed. "Without them, our trade routes will be safer. Our colonies will be more peaceful." War Chief Tae-hyung stomped past them. "Good riddance," he growled. "Let them go back to their little planet and fight each other instead of bothering the rest of us." As the hall emptied, Captain Park stood up slowly. His three companions looked at him, waiting to see what he would do. The human captain walked down the long aisle between the seats. His footsteps echoed in the now quiet hall. When he reached the center of the room where the big screen still showed the vote results, he stopped. High Chancellor Minsu was still there, putting away his ceremonial hammer. "Chancellor," Captain Park said. His voice was not loud, but it carried clearly in the empty space. Minsu looked at him with cold silver eyes. "The vote is over, human. You have your orders." Captain Park nodded once. "Yes, we do. And you have made your choice." He paused and looked around the hall one more time. "But I want you to remember this day. You may have just made the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy." Minsu's expression did not change. "Is that a threat?" "No," Captain Park said quietly. "It's a warning. You're removing the one species that actually knows how to fight when fighting is necessary. You're taking away your early warning system, and you're doing it because you think peace means the absence of conflict." He turned to walk away, then stopped and looked back. "Real peace," he said, "means being ready to fight for what matters when something truly dangerous comes along. You just voted to make yourselves defenseless, and you're celebrating it." With that, Captain Park walked back to his companions. The four humans left the hall together, their footsteps fading into silence. High Chancellor Minsu watched them go. For just a moment, something like doubt flickered across his face. But then he shook his head and finished packing up his things. The humans were gone. The galaxy would finally have peace. He had no idea how wrong he was. 6 months had passed since the humans left Federation space. The galaxy seemed quieter now. Trade ships moved between planets without any trouble. Colonies reported fewer conflicts. Many species thought they had made the right choice. Admiral Jin Ho of the Altarian Defense Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Silver Star. Through the large windows, he could see 3 other ships flying in formation with his. They were patrolling the outer edges of Altarian space just like they did every week. "Sir," said Commander Subin, walking up to him with a data pad. "This week's patrol report is ready." Jin Ho took the pad and looked at the numbers. Everything was normal. No pirates, no conflicts between colonies, no emergency calls for help. "It's been like this for months," Jin Ho said. "Maybe the Council was right about the humans. Maybe they really were causing most of our problems." Subin nodded. "The shipping lanes are much safer now. Our patrol ships haven't had to break up any fights or chase away raiders in weeks. What they didn't know was that human ships had been doing most of that work before. Humans had chased pirates away from trade routes. They had stopped small conflicts before they became big wars. They had been watching the dark spaces between stars where dangerous things might hide. Now no one was doing that job. On the colony world of Kepler 442b, Governor Da-Yun was having a different kind of problem. She sat in her office looking at supply reports that didn't make sense. "Captain Namjoon," she called to her security chief. "When did we last get a supply ship from the inner systems?" Namjoon checked his records. 3 weeks ago, Governor. The ship Bright Hope from the Zentari system. But that's strange. We should have had 2 more ships by now. Da-Yun frowned. "Try to contact the shipping authority. Ask them where our supplies are." Namjoon tried for an hour, but he couldn't reach anyone. The communication channels were working fine. The messages were being sent, but no one was answering from the inner systems. "Maybe they're just busy," Da-Yun said, but she didn't sound sure. Far away in the asteroid mining belt called Sigma 9, Station Commander Wu Jin was having an even bigger problem. He was a Vorthak, like War Chief Tae Hyung who had spoken against the humans. But Wu Jin was not a warrior. He ran mining operations. 7 mining platforms worked in the asteroid belt under his command. Each platform had 50 workers who dug valuable metals out of space rocks. Every day the platform sent reports to Wu Jin's station. 3 weeks ago, the reports stopped coming. Platform 7, "This is Control Station," Wu Jin said into his communication device for the 100th time. "Please respond." Only static came back. He had tried to contact all 7 platforms. None of them answered. He had sent small scout ships to check on them. The scout ships never came back either. Wu Jin was starting to feel scared, but he didn't want to admit it. Vorthak were supposed to be brave. Still, he decided to send a message to Vorthak Command asking for help. At Observatory Prime, the most advanced space telescope in the galaxy, Dr. Jae Hyun was noticing something very strange. Dr. Jae Hyun was a mechanoid, a robot that had become truly alive. His metal body didn't need sleep, so he worked all day and night studying the stars. "Computer," he said, "show me the activity readings for Sector 7 Alpha." A holographic display appeared in front of him. It showed a three-dimensional map of a large area of space. Normally, this area would be full of small lights representing ships, space stations, and planets with cities. Now it was almost completely dark. "Computer, this must be an error. Run a full diagnostic check." "Diagnostic complete," the computer said in a flat voice. "All systems are functioning normally. The readings are accurate." Dr. Jae-hyun felt something like worry, though he wasn't sure if robots could really worry. He tried scanning other sectors. More and more areas of space were going dark. Something was very wrong. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans were not sitting quietly. Admiral Chung Hee-yoon sat in a meeting room with other human leaders. President Mi-young Chen and Defense Minister Ki-tae listened as reports came in from human monitoring stations hidden throughout the galaxy. The humans had not really left Federation space completely. They had hidden small monitoring stations on empty planets and in asteroid fields. These stations watched and listened to what was happening in the galaxy. "Dr. Young-soo," Admiral Yoon said, "tell us what you found." Dr. Young-soo was the head of human xenobiology research. He studied alien life forms, especially dangerous ones. His face was very serious as he stood up. "Something is moving in the empty space between galaxies," he said. "Our long-range sensors have been tracking it for weeks. It's massive, much bigger than anything we've ever seen before." He pressed a button and a holographic image appeared above the table. It showed what looked like a huge shadow moving through space. "The energy readings are off the charts," Dr. Young-soo continued. "Whatever this thing is, it's been traveling toward our galaxy for over a year. Maybe longer." President Mi-young leaned forward. "When did we first detect it?" 8 months ago. But we think it's been out there much longer. We just didn't have equipment sensitive enough to see it until recently." Defense Minister Ki-tae did some quick math in his head. 8 months ago was just before the Federation banned us. And now it's getting closer. Admiral Yoon nodded grimly. "The timing is not a coincidence. I think this thing has been studying our galaxy." It waited until the Federation removed their best early warning system. "Us," President Mi-young said quietly. "Us," Admiral Yoon agreed. "Humans have always been good at spotting danger early. We're naturally suspicious. We look for threats that other species miss. The Federation banned us for being too warlike. But being warlike means being ready for war. And war means being ready for enemies." Dr. Young-soo brought up more images. "Look at these energy patterns. This thing doesn't move like a ship or even a space creature. It moves like it's hunting." The room became very quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Finally, Defense Minister Ki-tae spoke. "The Federation removed us because they thought we were the biggest threat to galactic peace. But what if we weren't the threat? What if we were the protection?" Admiral Yoon stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Earth's moon and the stars beyond. Somewhere out there in the dark between galaxies, something was coming. Something that had waited for the galaxy's guardians to be sent away. "We need to warn them," she said. "Will they listen?" President Mi-young asked. "They just spent 6 months celebrating the fact that we're gone." "They'll listen," Admiral Yoon said, "when the silence reaches their core worlds. When their friends stop answering communication calls. When their supply ships never arrive." She turned back to the group. "But by then it might be too late." Dr. Young-soo pulled up one more image. This one showed the path the unknown entity was taking through space. It was moving in a spiral pattern, getting closer and closer to the populated parts of the galaxy. "At current speed," he said, "it will reach the outer Federation colonies in about 2 months. The inner systems, including the Federation capital, in about 4 months." The humans in the room looked at each other. They had been banned for being too violent, too ready to fight. But now, as something dangerous approached their galaxy, they realized that being ready to fight might be the only thing that could save everyone. The question was, would the Federation realize it in time? The disappearances were getting worse. What started as a few missing ships had become entire star systems going silent. Emergency Counselor Dong Hyun of the Ethereal Collective called for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Federation. Only half the species showed up. The others had simply vanished. No goodbye messages, no distress calls, no explanations. They were just gone, as if they had never existed at all. Dong Hyun floated in the center of the great crystal hall, her light form flickering with worry. Around her, the remaining representatives sat in their seats. But the hall felt empty with so many sections vacant. "Friends," she said, her musical voice carrying a note of fear that no one had ever heard before. "We face a crisis unlike anything in our history. In the past month, we have lost contact with 23 member species." Ambassador Kang Ho of the Altarian Empire stood up. His blue scales had lost their shine and his yellow eyes looked tired. "My people have sent scout ships to the outer territories. Most of them never return. The few that do come back, their crews are changed. They speak of shadows in space, darkness that swallows light." In the Altarian home system, Fleet Admiral Byung-ho was trying to make sense of reports that sounded impossible. He stood in the command center of the Altarian Defense Force, surrounded by screens showing empty space where busy colonies should be. "Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Cho-hee, "we've received another report from the patrol ship Storm Wind." Byung-ho took the datapad and read it. Then he read it again, hoping the words would change. "They say they saw ships firing at something, but their weapons just disappeared," he said. "Not destroyed, not deflected, disappeared, as if they had never been fired at all." "Sir," Cho-hee said quietly, "do you think the report is accurate?" Byung-ho looked at her. "The captain of the Stormwind is Jaemin Kang. I've known him for 15 years. He's never lied about anything, not even small things. If he says their weapons disappeared into nothing, then that's what happened. Across the galaxy, similar reports were coming in from the few survivors who managed to escape whatever was consuming entire worlds. Gi-wan was a Vorthak trader who had been selling goods on the planet Bellis when the attack came. She was one of only 3 beings who escaped that system alive. Now she stood before what remained of the Galactic Council, her massive furry hands shaking as she spoke. "I was loading cargo when the sky went dark," she said. "Not like night. Not like clouds. Dark like something was eating the light itself." The remaining council members listened in silence. War Chief Tae-hyung, who had spoken so strongly against humans 6 months ago, was not there. His entire species had gone silent 2 weeks earlier. "The creatures came from deep space," Gi-wan continued. "I can't describe them properly. They were like shadows, but shadows that moved on their own. Shadows with purpose. When our defense ships fired at them, the energy bolts just went into them and never came out." High Chancellor Min-soo leaned forward. "How did you escape?" "My ship was small. Old. The kind of ship that barely shows up on scanners. I think they only noticed the big energy sources. The planets. The space stations. The large ships. I flew away as quiet as I could and they didn't follow." Gi-wan's voice dropped to a whisper, but I looked back. I saw what happened to Bellis. The whole planet just faded away, like someone was slowly turning down a light until it went out. After Gi-wan finished her testimony, the remaining military leaders began comparing their information. Admiral Su-young of the Zentari Defense Force had been studying every report they could find. "There's a pattern," she announced to the Emergency Council. "Every attack follows the same sequence. First, long-range sensors detect something moving toward the system. Then all communication with that system stops within minutes. After that, nothing. No wreckage. No energy signatures. No trace that anything was ever there." She brought up a holographic map showing the galaxy. Red dots marked the lost systems. The pattern was clear and terrifying. "They're not attacking randomly," Admiral Su-young continued. "They're working from the outside in, targeting the most heavily defended systems first. They want to eliminate any organized resistance before moving toward the core worlds." Meanwhile, in the Sol system, human monitoring stations were tracking every move the entities made. Dr. Hye-jin worked around the clock in the deep space monitoring facility on the far side of Earth's moon. "Admiral Yoon," she called, "you need to see this." Admiral Seong-hee Yoon floated over to Dr. Hye-jin's workstation in the zero-gravity observatory. The data on the screens was both fascinating and terrifying. Based on their consumption rate and movement pattern, Dr. Hye-jin explained, they'll reach the galactic core in 6 weeks. Our computers estimate they've already absorbed the mass energy equivalent of 40 star systems. Admiral Yoon studied the tactical displays. The entities weren't just destroying civilizations. They were consuming them completely, leaving nothing behind. "Look at this approach vector," she said, pointing to the holographic display. "They're not just randomly eating everything they find. They're being systematic, strategic. They eliminate the strongest defenses first, then work their way through progressively weaker targets. Dr. Young-Soo joined them at the workstation. We've been analyzing the energy signatures from the consumed systems. These entities don't just destroy matter. They convert organized energy into something else. Something we can't detect. What do you mean, organized energy? Admiral Yoon asked. Life, Dr. Young-Soo said simply. Specifically intelligent life and the technology that intelligent life creates. They're feeding on civilization itself. The implications hit Admiral Yoon like a physical blow. They're not just conquering territory. They're not even just killing. They're completely erasing entire civilizations and using that energy for what? Reproduction, maybe, Dr. Heejin suggested. Or growth, or travel. We don't know, but whatever their purpose, they need organized energy to accomplish it. And the galaxy just spent 6 months systematically eliminating its best early warning system. Admiral Yoon was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. The Federation banned us because they thought we were too aggressive, too violent, too ready to fight. But those traits exist for a reason. Humans evolved to spot predators early and respond with overwhelming force. We weren't just warriors. We were the galaxy's immune system. And now the galaxy has an infection, Dr. Young-Soo said, and no immune system to fight it. Back in Federation space, the remaining species were finally beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. Emergency Counselor Dong-Hyun received a report that made her light form flicker with pure terror. The entities have consumed the entire Vorthok Empire, her aide reported. All 7 systems. Billions of beings, gone in less than a day. High Chancellor Min-Soo sat in his private chambers, staring at reports from the outer territories. Every day brought news of more systems going dark. More species disappearing without a trace. He remembered Captain Yi-Jun Park's warning from 6 months ago. You may have just made the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy. At the time, it had sounded like the empty threat of a defeated species. Now with entities consuming entire civilizations and no one knowing how to stop them, those words echoed in his mind. The humans had warned them about removing their early warning system. They had said that real peace meant being ready to fight when fighting was necessary. The Federation had laughed at that idea. No one was laughing now. As Min-Soo sat alone in his chambers, listening to reports of more disappearances, more silence spreading across the galaxy, he began to compose a message that the Federation Council would have considered impossible just months earlier. It was a request for help, a formal admission that they had made a terrible mistake, and it was addressed to the one species they had banned for being too violent to live with civilized beings. Outside his window, the stars were disappearing one by one, consumed by shadows that moved with purpose through the void. The galaxy was learning that sometimes the thing you fear most is the thing you need most, and sometimes the monsters you cast out are the only ones capable of fighting the real monsters waiting in the dark. High Chancellor Min-Soo stood alone in the communications center of the Federation capital. Around him, screens showed the horrible truth. Only 12 species remained in contact. The rest were gone, consumed by the entities that swept through space like a plague of darkness. Communications Officer Hayun, he said to the young Altarian at the control station, prepare an emergency transmission to the Sol system. Hayun's scales had turned pale with fear, but she did as ordered. Channel open, Chancellor. Broadcasting on all human frequencies. Min-Soo took a deep breath. 6 months ago, he had banished the humans from Federation space. He had used his ceremonial hammer to make it official. Now he was about to eat those words and everyone would hear him do it. To the human delegation, he began, his voice carefully controlled. This is High Chancellor Min-Soo of the Galactic Federation. We are sending this message to formally request immediate assistance from the human species. He paused, the words sticking in his throat like poison. The previous ban on human participation in Federation activities was an error in judgment. We now require your expertise in conflict resolution. It was the most diplomatic way he could think of to say, we need you to fight a war for us. But even through the careful language, his desperation was clear. The situation is urgent. We have lost contact with 35 member species. Unknown entities are consuming entire star systems. We estimate 3 weeks before they reach the core worlds. Please respond immediately. Hayun ended the transmission and looked at the Chancellor. Message sent, sir. It will reach the Sol system in approximately 6 hours. Minsu nodded and walked away. He had just done something that would have been unthinkable months earlier. The Federation had begged the humans to come back and save them. The same humans they had called violent barbarians. On Earth, Admiral Shung Hee-yoon received the message while meeting with the Human Leadership Council. The transmission played through speakers in the secure conference room beneath the Pacific Ocean. When it ended, the room was silent for a full minute. President Mi-young-chen was the first to speak. After they banned us for being too warlike, they're asking us to come back and fight their war. Not their war, Defense Minister Kite corrected, looking at the tactical data that had come with the message. According to these reports, we're looking at complete extinction. This isn't about territory or politics. These entities want to consume everything. Dr. Yoonji Kim, who had been present at the original ban, spoke quietly. The Federation species never developed the concept of total war. Their conflicts were always limited. Territorial disputes, trade disagreements. They fought over resources or boundaries, but they always had rules. They can't understand an enemy that simply wants to erase them from existence. Admiral Yoon pulled up holographic displays, showing the entity's movement patterns. We've been preparing for this possibility since the ban. Operation Prometheus has been running war games against extinction scenarios for months. But we'll need more than just human forces if we're going to stop this. The debate that followed was intense but brief. Councillor Junho argued for leaving the Federation to face the consequences of their decision. They made their choice, he said. They called us monsters and threw us out. Why should we save them? Dr. Young-soo disagreed. Because if the galaxy falls, humanity falls with it. We're part of this galactic community. Whether the Federation likes it or not, these entities won't stop with Federation worlds. They'll come for Earth too. Admiral Yoon studied the tactical data. Besides, this isn't about the Federation anymore. This is about survival. If we don't stop these entities here in Federation space, we'll be fighting them alone when they reach the Sol system. President Mi-young looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. We all know what the right choice is. The question is whether we go back as the banned species crawling for forgiveness, or as humanity doing what needs to be done. We go as humans, Admiral Yoon said firmly, fully human. With all the aggression and tactical ruthlessness that terrified them in the first place. They wanted us gone because we were too violent. Now they'll see what human violence looks like when we're protecting something we care about. Defense Minister Kite was already pulling up fleet deployment orders. How much force can we mobilize? Everything, Admiral Yoon replied. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. This isn't the time for holding reserves. Either we stop these entities completely, or there won't be anything left to protect. The room filled with activity as orders went out to human bases throughout the Sol system and beyond. Hidden human outposts in Federation space received coded messages to prepare for full military activation. Fleet Admiral Yi-jun Park, the same captain who had delivered the warning 6 months earlier, was now commanding the largest human military force ever assembled. He stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Defiant as hundreds of human ships prepared for hyperspace jumps. Signal the Federation, Admiral Yoon ordered from her flagship. The Indomitable, tell them we're coming. But make sure they understand the terms. The message that went back to High Chancellor Minsu was short and direct. Chancellor Minsu. This is Admiral Shung Hee-yoon of the Human Defense Fleet. We have received your request for assistance. We are responding with full military deployment. Estimated arrival in Federation core space 18 hours. Be advised. We do this our way with our tactics and our command structure. You removed us from Federation space because you considered our methods too violent. You will now see exactly what human methods look like when we are fighting to protect what we value. We are not coming back as a banned species asking for forgiveness. We are coming as humanity, and we will do whatever is necessary to stop this threat. If that disturbs you, remember that you called us Admiral Yoon commanding. When High Chancellor Minsu received this message, he felt a mixture of relief and terror. Relief because help was coming. Terror because he was about to see what humans were really capable of when they stopped holding back. In the few remaining Federation systems, word spread quickly that the humans were returning. The reactions were mixed. Some species felt hope for the first time in weeks. Others worried about what it would mean to have humanity unleashed in their space. Admiral Su Young of the Zentari Defense Force received a preliminary tactical briefing from the humans. When she read it, her face went pale. "They're planning to use their own ships as weapons," she reported to emergency counselor Dong Hyun. "Controlled reactor overloads, suicide attacks, tactics that would be considered war crimes in any normal conflict." "These are not normal circumstances," Dong Hyun replied, her light form flickering rapidly with stress. "If human methods can stop these entities, then we must accept whatever they consider necessary." As the human fleet prepared to enter Federation space, Admiral Park sent one final message to the Federation leadership. "High Chancellor Min-soo, 6 months ago in your Crystal Hall you ridiculed the ban on humans until the silence shook the hall. You thought that silence was victory. Peace at last with the violent humans gone. Now you know what that silence really meant. It meant your early warning system was gone. Your guardians were gone. Your willingness to fight for survival was gone. You are about to discover why that silence should have terrified you more than we ever did. Because when humans go to war, we don't fight to win territory or resources. We fight to eliminate threats completely. These entities think they can consume our galaxy. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten something humanity is willing to die to protect." Fleet Admiral Park, Human Defense Fleet, entering Federation space in 10 minutes. As the massive human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Federation territory, every remaining species in the galaxy held their breath. The humans were back. The violent, aggressive, impossible to live with humans were back. And for the first time since the entities appeared, there was hope. The question was whether that hope would be enough, or whether even human ferocity could stop entities that had already consumed half the galaxy. The answer would come soon enough. The humans were done holding back. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of metal and fire. 300 ships of various sizes spread across the edge of Federation core territory. Everything changed the moment they arrived. Fleet Admiral Yi-jun Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching tactical displays that showed the approaching entities. They were less than 2 days away from the last Federation worlds. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," he said into his communication system. "You know the situation. These entities have consumed half the galaxy. They've erased entire civilizations without leaving a trace. Traditional tactics have failed completely." Around him, his bridge crew prepared for what they all knew would be humanity's most desperate battle. "We are not here to fight a conventional war," Park continued. "We are here to poison these entities with chaos they cannot digest. Remember, acceptable losses for this mission are 100%. We succeed or everyone in the galaxy dies. There is no middle ground." Federation observers watched in horror and amazement as the humans implemented tactics that seemed impossible to any civilized species. Captain Taemin led the first wave. His squadron of 24 ships flew directly toward the entity's advanced scouts. But instead of engaging in normal combat, they did something the Federation had never seen before. "All ships arm reactor overload charges," Taemin ordered. "On my signal, ram the targets and trigger detonation. We need to get sensor packages as close as possible before we're consumed." Emergency Coordinator Dong Hyun watched from her command ship, her light form flickering with disbelief. "They're using their own ships as weapons. Their crews are volunteering to die just to gather information." One by one, Taemin's ships crashed into the shadowy entities. Each ship transmitted data for exactly 3.7 seconds before being consumed. Then their reactors exploded inside the entities, creating massive energy pulses. The entities paused for the first time since their attack began. "It worked," Dr. Hyjin reported from her analysis station aboard Admiral Park's ship. "The reactor explosions are creating energy patterns the entities can't immediately process. They need time to adapt." "Then we don't give them time," Admiral Park said. "All ships begin chaos protocol." Commander Inho coordinated the next phase. His job was to organize what the humans called sacrificial flanking maneuvers. Entire squadrons would deliberately enter the entity's consumption zones, not to escape, but to create opportunities for follow-up strikes. "Squadron 7, move to position Alpha," Inho ordered. "Squadron 12, position Beta. Remember, your job is not to survive. Your job is to make openings for Squadrons 15 and 20 to exploit." The Federation observers could not understand what they were seeing. High Chancellor Min-soo, watching from the Federation command ship, turned to his military advisor. "They're accepting 80% casualty rates as normal," he said. "How can they function like this?" Because they understand something we never did, replied Admiral Su Young, who had joined the Federation command staff. They understand that some threats require absolute commitment. You cannot fight extinction with half measures. The human tactics became more extreme as the battle continued. Dr. He Jin made a crucial discovery while analyzing the sensor data from the destroyed ships. "Admiral," she called out, "I've found something." The entities feed on organized energy patterns, but they cannot process chaotic energy. When our reactor explosions create random energy pulses, the entities have to pause and reorganize themselves. Admiral Park understood immediately. We're not just fighting them. We're poisoning them. Communications, get me Dr. Young-Soo. Dr. Young-Soo's face appeared on the bridge screen. He was aboard a research ship well behind the battle lines. "Admiral, I'm seeing the same data. These entities are like massive organic computers. They can process and absorb organized energy, but chaos disrupts their entire system. What do you recommend?" "Maximum chaos," Dr. Young-Soo said without hesitation. "Every human ship needs to trigger controlled reactor cascades simultaneously, not to destroy the entities, but to create so much random energy that they can't process any of it." Admiral Park called a meeting of all human ship commanders via holographic communication. The faces of 300 captains appeared in a grid on his bridge screen. "You've all heard the analysis," he said. "We can stop these entities, but only if every single ship participates in coordinated self-destruction. This is not a suicide mission. This is a poisoning mission. We're going to make ourselves toxic to consume." Captain Min-jae of the cruiser Thunder spoke first. "Admiral, my crew is ready." "When do we begin?" One by one, every captain confirmed their readiness. The Federation observers could not believe what they were hearing. An entire fleet was volunteering for certain death. "This is madness," High Chancellor Min-soo said. "How can they ask their crews to do this?" Admiral Su Young, who was beginning to understand humans better, answered him. "They're not asking. Every crew member volunteered when they joined the human military. They knew this day might come, the day when humanity's survival required everything they had to give." The final assault began with perfect coordination. Every human ship moved into position around the entity formation. They created a three-dimensional grid with the entities at the center. Admiral Park gave the final order. "All ships, trigger reactor cascades on my mark. It has been an honor serving with you all. For humanity, and for every species in this galaxy. Mark." 300 human ships simultaneously triggered controlled nuclear explosions, not to destroy themselves but to create the most chaotic energy pattern possible. The explosions were timed and positioned to create interference waves that made organized energy consumption impossible. The entities, for the first time in their existence, encountered something they could not digest. The chaotic energy patterns created by human sacrifice were like poison to their organized energy absorption systems. The massive shadow creatures began to convulse. They tried to process the energy, but every attempt to organize it resulted in more chaos. They began consuming themselves, their own organized energy systems breaking down in the face of pure random energy. Within minutes, the entities began retreating toward the intergalactic void. They moved faster than they had ever moved before, desperate to escape the chaos that was destroying them from within. In the aftermath, as emergency medical ships searched for survivors, High Chancellor Min-soo found himself aboard a human hospital ship. Dr. Bo-Ra Lee was treating his injuries from the energy shockwaves. "Why?" he asked her. "After everything we said about you, everything we did to you, why did you save us?" Fleet Admiral Park entered the medical bay at that moment. His uniform was torn, his face exhausted. He had somehow survived the cascade explosions by ejecting in an escape pod at the last possible moment. "Because that's what humans do," Park said simply. "We fight the wars that need fighting, especially when everyone else thinks we're monsters for being willing to fight them." He walked to the medical bay window and looked out at the stars. "You banned us for being too violent. But violence isn't evil when it's the only thing standing between civilization and extinction." Min-soo was quiet for a long moment. Finally he spoke. "The Galactic Federation owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." "We don't want payment," Park replied. "We want understanding. Humanity evolved to be your early warning system. We spot predators that other species miss. We're willing to fight threats that others would negotiate with or ignore. The Federation Council will need to vote on your return to Federation space," Min-soo said. Park shook his head. "We're not coming back as members. We're staying as protectors. The galaxy needs species that think differently, species that are willing to do terrible things when terrible things are necessary. Dr. Bora Lee finished treating Minsu's wounds. The entities retreated, but our sensors show they're still alive out there in the intergalactic void. They'll be back eventually, probably with adaptations to counter our tactics. Admiral Park nodded, which is why humanity will be watching. The Federation can go back to peaceful trade and diplomacy. We'll handle the things that want to end peaceful trade and diplomacy. As reconstruction began throughout the galaxy, human monitoring stations returned to their hidden positions in the dark spaces between stars. They watched and waited because, as Admiral Seung-hee-yoon noted in her final report, the entities retreated, but they learned from this encounter. Next time they return, they'll be prepared for human tactics. We need to evolve our methods faster than they can adapt to them. The Galactic Federation formally recognized humanity not as a member species, but as the galaxy's permanent defense specialists. It was a role that acknowledged both humanity's essential nature and their unique value to galactic civilization. The galaxy had learned that sometimes, the thing you fear most is the thing you need most. The monsters you cast out might be the only ones capable of fighting the real monsters waiting in the dark. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their eternal watch, ready to become monsters themselves whenever something worse threatened the light of civilization. The Federation finally understood what Captain Park had tried to tell them months earlier. Real peace doesn't mean the absence of violence.